You are listening to From Sobriety to Recovery with Jesse Mogul, episode 297. Let's get to the show. Welcome back to From Sobriety to Recovery. I am your host, Jesse Mogul. I am in addiction recovery 297. Now, for those of you who have been listening for a long period of time, then you know I have an affinity for the sevens. Love any episode that ends with the number 7. Most importantly, and for those of you who are absolutely listening linearly, you will know that we have now entered into the YouTube window. What does that mean for those of you who have not been paying attention linearly? And by linearly, I do mean just in order. So I am going to be jumping this over to YouTube. I will not be walking away from the Spotify, Apple, Pandora, whatever auditory streaming app you are listening to currently. That will continue. I'm also going to be shooting this simultaneously for YouTube. I've been getting a lot of encouragement from the tribe and from other people who have heard me talk about it, who have sent me messages, that being able to see me talk about this stuff in person, like all my mannerisms and everything else, apparently there is a little bit of interest in that. I'm not going to say that all of you have reached out and mentioned that you would like to see me, but certainly some of you have. And because of that level of encouragement, I am going to begin shooting these on YouTube as well. Now, what is that going to look like? I'm not quite sure. I've been testing out DSLRs. I've been testing out different web cameras. I've been putting a lot of effort into trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to be able to shoot this so that it can look good for YouTube, but we still don't lose the raw, real, rambling nature that you've grown to know and love for 297 episodes. So I'm not saying it's going to be a smooth transition to be able to do these simultaneously. There might be some things that you hear me talk about that you wish you would be able to see because I'm showing something on the camera. And there might be other times where I'm literally just sitting there practically in the dark talking to you guys about whatever the topic is, and I'm really not very animated at all, and you're like, why the hell am I watching this on YouTube? It could go both ways. Either way, we're going to do it, and it sounds like a lot of fun, and I've been putting together blog pages for some of the episodes from the previous ones. I think there's a lot of the 270s and some of the 280s that are up as a test for what will ultimately become a lot of. Whether I'm ever able to go back and do all of the previous 300, I don't know. I would really love if I could get some help on this. If you know anyone at a very reasonable rate that can somehow help me put all of this stuff together. I've come up with the format. I think I've transcribed over 100 of the episodes through ChatGPT and gotten notes back. It's just the time. It's the bandwidth to be able to go in and do them. And not all the times does ChatGPT give me the response that I desire. And because I know the content, I'm able to go in and ask certain questions of GPT to be able to pull out the things that I need through the transcription that's been entered into her. So it's a whole thing. So whether I ever go back and do the previous 300 completely, I don't know. I set myself a goal of doing one a day and figured I could do them all in a year. And here we are in August, and I have not done one a day. So not following my own advice on that one. I chose a small step and did not follow through with said small step. But I do know that I will start doing them for the YouTube versions. And so what I'm going to end up doing is going back through a lot of the old content and going back into a lot of those topics that I have not really touched upon since the first 50 or 100 or 200, because you're not going back and listening to those as much as I'd like to believe that you are. And maybe you've taken notes and maybe you haven't. So there's so many topics that I literally could just go back over the last 300 episodes and just repeat myself as if I don't already repeat myself again with more, let's just say, forethought to the repeating. And it would sound like it's brand new because I'm going to be coming at a lot of this material from a different perspective than I was January 1st of 2017, February 14th of 2019, all those years in between, right? So I guess I didn't start the show till January 1st of 2019. So I wouldn't have an episode on January 1st of 2017. I wasn't even sober yet. So I'll digress, and I'll move over to the main topic of today's conversation. So do look forward. We have now entered into the window. I got my first webcam. I tested it out yesterday. Still a little iffy on how the autofocus might work out because I do plan on moving around. In fact, I've got enough microphones that I could actually hold up a microphone and pace back and forth in front of the camera like I was going to be on stage or like I was doing stand-up. And I've even thought about busting out some material for the YouTube version, and doing like a 20 minutes on just, I don't know, life and the stupidity and insanity and the beauty that I see every single day. So that could happen too. We don't know. And by we, I mean me and all the different voices in my head trying to tell me what to do. So, and if there was ever a better segue on moving to today's topic, I probably could imagine that there is. We all have voices in our heads. It's okay. You're not psychotic. You just have a lot of roommates, and they're probably telling you shit that isn't true, isn't real, and probably isn't even that worthwhile to be listening to. And that's all part of the journey. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about what I just referenced when I said roommates in your head, go to Michael Singer and listen to The Untethered Soul or read it. Either way, it's a fantastic book, and it's one I've talked about a lot, and it's another one of those topics that I'll rehash when I move this to YouTube, is by also talking about some of these books and how beneficial they are. So I'm looking forward to the YouTube being an opportunity for me to be more strategic in the things that I'm talking about. Whereas when I first launched this show, I really just had like 100 different topics I wanted to do, and then I just sort of rambled through them and, didn't do hardly any social media, didn't really talk much about it at all. All of y'all found me mostly organically, and I do intend on amping up some of the social media exposure, especially on TikTok, because of all the apps, I think I find that one to be the most enjoyable, and it's not associated with Mark Zuckerberg. It might be spyware from China, but at this point, everything is a little bit of spyware. So do I really care who gets all my information? If I did, I'd probably stop entering in all my information to all these other websites. And I digress again. See, this is the fun of 297. We don't know where it'll go. But I do have some notes, and I've come up with 7 things that I thought up of the top of my head over the course of the last 20 minutes before I turned on the microphone that I really felt like I could take from the last 297 episodes, the last 7.5 years of me being sober, and the fact that the Olympics are happening right now. It was really interesting. When I got up on the walk-in treadmill and pulled up the computer and started doing notes for the show, there was a 4x100 relay happening with men and women. So it's a co-ed relay. I think it's a new event that may have started back in Tokyo, and now it's been still in the games here in Paris. It's brand new. So it's like two men and 2 women from each country are doing a relay. And while that's super cool that they're doing mixed relays now, what I thought was really interesting was that they were literally passing the baton. And I have talked about this, and I got the idea from the Olympics, watching it one year and watching them pass the baton and thinking that's really what it's like when we pass the baton from one year to the next. So for those of you who've been around for a new year, then you know at the beginning of December, I start talking about passing the baton to the next year and how that passing of the baton goes from December 1st to February 1st. So we give ourselves 60 days to finish up one year and to warm up to the next year. So we're not just trying to start fresh on January 1st and overwhelming ourselves with all of these changes that we've been wanting to make. As if we're magically going to wake up on January 1st and all the shit about ourselves we were sick and tired of just becomes magically easy to solve and repair and heal simply because we awoke on a day that is the beginning of a new year, when the earth doesn't really have a calendar that it follows other than the fact that it just revolves around the sun and at the same time spins around each day and also has the satellite that spins around it each day. There's a whole lot of celestial shit happening, and none of it gives a 2 dams about our calendar, which wasn't even really our calendar, I think, until the Romans or the Christians or somebody decided to be like, you know what, we're gonna redo this whole calendar thing. And they just figured it out one day and we're like, yeah, we're probably going to have to subtract or add a couple hundred days because we may not be correct about this. Meanwhile, there's other civilizations on this planet who did not necessarily want to agree with our calendar. But because the Western civilizations were so dominant back then, they really had no choice but to operate on our calendar if they were going to do any kind of trade with us. So really the money talked on that one. So waking up on January 1st of any given year is really irrelevant to whether you're actually going to make a change or not. And while some people do stick to their New Year's resolutions and utilize that day as a fresh new beginning, most of us aren't going to be able to solve all of our problems, let alone kick sugar or Diet Coke or cigarettes on that day because it's magically the first. There's going to be a lot of trial and error to this, and there's going to be a lot of ebbs and flows. And once you have made the decision that you want to make a change in your life, and we've talked about this in a previous episode, I believe I called it Stages of Change. I don't know the number of that episode, although somebody up in Red Deer might. But anyways, I do remember bringing this up to somebody recently. So 5 stages of change. Pre-contemplation, you don't think anything's wrong. Contemplation, starting to think something's not right here. Third stage, planning. Okay, things are definitely not going very well. Maybe I should come up with a different plan and strategize myself. 4, take action. Sweet, we're doing something. Maybe this will work. 5 is either you maintain the change in your life or you begin to slide backwards into a lapse or relapse. So anytime you go to make a change, especially for those of you new to sobriety, if you're just starting to check out this show, clearly you are in the planning, taking action stage. You could be potentially in contemplation where you're still trying to figure out if you got an issue, but there's still probably a part of your brain that's already starting to make some kind of plan. Whether you're going to follow through with that plan today or 117 days from now really is inconsequential when you've already made that change decision. It's just a matter of starting to really work at it. And a lot of us will make a decision to change, and we'll have that 1 step forward, 2 step backs, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of sensation. So when we're going through these 7 things that I came up with that really do speak to me, it wasn't like I get that I did just stream of conscious type them up right before I hit record, but at the same time, none of these are just willy-nilly. They've all meant something. Because I have been in this state of unrest, fatigue, confusion, overwhelm, which is a sign of a breakthrough, which is a sign that my mind is creating new neural pathways. When you are overwhelmed, when you're confused, when you're frustrated, your brain is outside of its traditional trance-like state, and you're doing something different. You're doing something new, and it can be a lot. And you might have a negative association with overwhelm or frustration or anger towards yourself for not being really good at something when you first start. But it's not really fair to yourself considering the deep grooves you probably have in your mind towards the behavior you're seeking to want to break through from. So the first thing that I have learned through 7.5 years of sobriety and 297 episodes is you have to want to change for any change to even begin to take place. Now, there's a caveat to this that we're all in a state of change and growth and evolution. But if you're not consciously aware of it, you might be changing and evolving in a way that you don't really want to be. You could be getting bitter towards the world, angry towards your loved ones, stingy with your money, when you would prefer to be generous and abundant and loving. So you don't necessarily have to always consciously make the decision to change an aspect of yourself and it still not happen, or you might even want to make a change, not really be aware of it, and be changing anyways. There's a lot of ways we can interpret change. So when I say you have to want to change, what I'm specifically keying in on here is that when you think about wanting to do something, but you don't really want to do something, even if you can momentarily appease your loved ones or placate yourself and do it for a short amount of time, if you don't really want to do it, you're not going to continue doing it. Like, again, I've known people who have done some shit for years that they did not want to do, but at some point, even they were like, frick this, I am out. And what is even more important for us to understand this topic within context of our loved ones is you might be going through sobriety and recovery right now. You might be pushing yourself wildly hard, fast and furious to make these amazing changes in your life. And other people are more than content with their life. It doesn't necessarily mean that their life is grand or even bad. It just means that they are okay with whom they are. Or they are not okay with whom they are, but they're still going to keep acting that way because they would rather sit in the uncomfortability of that comfort zone rather than getting comfortable in the uncomfortability of the change zone. Either way, or all of the ways above, understand that no matter how much you see somebody else spiraling their life towards a shit show, it does not mean that you can just keep screaming at them and yelling at them and expecting that they're going to wildly, figuratively and literally just stand up and start taking charge of their lives. I know. Trust me, I have been doing this with people in my life. And I'd like to think of myself as emotionally intelligent, and I realize I have so far to come. And I will get upset, and I will get disappointed, and I will get angry with people I clearly see making poor decisions in their life. But if they don't want to change, no matter how much I try to push them, cajole them, give them advice, ask them poignant questions so that they can hear the answer from their own words, from their own mind, from their own mouth, I still can't guarantee that when they walk away, they're going to follow through with any of that. You cannot guarantee that somebody's going to do any of the things that you advise them, ask them, tell them, cajole them into. Because a lot of people, and this is the second one, want there to constantly be somebody applauding them, cheering them, supporting them. They need some kind of recognition and external validation on a regular basis. But number two, the second thing that I have learned through 7.5 years of sobriety and 297 episodes of this podcast is that most of our work will be done when no one is there to cheer us on. Where this is extremely poignant, especially during the Olympics, is that these people get a very short amount of time to shine, not just in their own country, but throughout the world. There are names. There's this one guy, Mercado or something. He's a French swimmer. He might win a fourth gold tonight. He might not. Katie Ledecky. I almost said Simone Biles, but she sort of transcended the Olympics now. Michelle Lee was a gymnast. I don't even know all the names of the swimmers and gymnasts. And I've been watching this stuff. Suni Lee. And are there anybody else? There's nobody else. There's a lot of swimmers I've been watching. I've watched almost every single swimming event. I think there's somebody named Husk, but I'm not positive, and I'm not even sure. I don't know much more about that. So there you go. Watched almost every single night of the Olympics, and I still could not tell you many of their names. I recognize their faces, and they matter to me now, and I hope that they go off and they have wonderful post-Olympic lives, and they do amazing things. I even once wrote a book with a former Olympian. His name is Ruben, and a fantastic guy, four-time Olympian. It was super sweet. I was a co-author in a book that all of us wrote together. My chapter was on flexibility. Super, just random thing I just came out of. I totally forgot. See, I do things and I forget that I've even done them. I got so excited about the fact that I just remembered that I did this that I actually went into my closet to get the book. So it's called Driven to Courage with a... Well, and this is really cool. Mark Victor Hansen gave us a quote that's on the cover, and it was co-authored by a former Olympian by the name of Ruben Gonzalez. And what was really cool about doing this with him, just beyond the fact that he's an Olympian, was the idea that someone who achieves... So, by the way, it's called Driven to Courage. It's a co-authored book. Matt Brawning, who is my mentor, he was the one who put all of this together with Ruben Gonzalez. So if you go type in Driven to Courage, Ruben Gonzalez, it probably will show up somewhere where you buy books. I don't know. I totally forgot that I was even a part of that project. Oh, goodness gracious. Sometimes you do things and you're like, this is really awesome. And then 5 years later, you're like, totally forgot I ever did that. So my point going back is that most of us will be doing the work on ourselves when there's no one to cheer us on. That's what these Olympians do. I mean, we all know Michael Phelps' name. Ryan Lochte, even though he sort of did retire in disgrace. You know, we certainly know the names of these Olympians who've done amazing things, who transcend the sport. And you think about Michael Phelps and all the work that that man had to do in order to win those 8 golds in Beijing. And most of that work was being done when nobody else was around. No one was there to cheer him on. It was just him and Scott Bowman, his coach, in a gym in Maryland, pretty sure it was Baltimore, and they were just doing whatever they do in order to get him to be able to swim as best as he could in his entire life. And it's not just him. I mean, there's archers and there's kayakers and there's equestrian people and there's all these folks who do these amazing things that qualify them for the Olympics. We know for a very brief amount of time, and then they go off and they just do whatever their lives do. The Natalie Coughlin's, remember her very much. So she was a fantastic swimmer back in the day. The Mark Spitzes, people like that, who again transcend the sport, but they often, you know, they're young when they do this and they still have a whole life. So think about that with yourself. Like, I get that we don't all consider ourselves Olympians in the likelihood that we would ever qualify for anything. I did go on there and I tried to figure out something I might potentially be able to qualify for the Olympics. I saw breakdancing is in there now, and I think I would look hilarious as a breakdancer, and I think I totally should put some effort into doing that once I get my knee fixed. But again, if I were to be able to achieve Olympic level breakdancer, I would have to be doing a majority of that when there was not a whole lot of people watching, because that's the way that work is done. Like when I was a personal trainer, I would tell people, I get you for 2 hours a week. It's 168 hours in a week. 166 hours. You're doing whatever you choose to do. I cannot make you eat healthy. I can't make you get a good night's sleep or drink enough water or lift the weights whenever I'm not around. I get you for a very short amount of time, and what you do with the rest of your time will have way more to do with your level of success than what we do together for these 1 hour sessions twice a week. That's your life. Your sponsor can't always be there. Your loved ones can't always be cheering you on. Everybody can't prop you up. You cannot constantly be getting validation and help and support 24/7. At some point, unless you've got like 1 million people, well, probably wouldn't even need 1 million, but you at least need like 100 that could consistently, constantly be there. You're going to at some point have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and figure shit out on your own. And sadly, it does seem like the latchkey kids of the 80s and 90s, us Gen Xers, may have raised kids a little too helicoptery, and now they don't even know how to, start up an air fryer on their own, let alone change their own tire or figure out how to pump their own gas. So some of the repercussions of our child rearing may come back to haunt us, and we'll figure that out later on. But at the same time, if you are somebody who realizes it's time to make a change, as much as you want to be able to go to 30 meetings in 30 days and have people constantly around you to make sure that you don't do anything that could potentially take your sobriety sideways, at some point you're going to be sitting in a dark room all alone, listening to the music you choose to listen to, lost in thoughts and noises and sounds and voices in your own head. And it's up to you to make those voices, no matter how mean or negative or rude or audaciously egotistical they may sound, or the words they may say come off as disapproving towards who you are as a person. It is of the utmost importance that there's at least one voice in your head that tells them all to shut the F up, that you're going to go ahead and do this regardless of what they say, that you'll figure this out, because waking up sober is a hell of a lot better than waking up hungover. And no matter how many times the voices in my head try to tell me I'm not worthy, there's always one in there that says you're absolutely worthy. The rest of y'all shut the hell up. So realize that a lot of this work you're going to have to do is going to be done with nobody else around. It's just me, myself, and I. And not all versions of me need to be nice to me, but at least one of them has to be louder than the rest. And even if they're a little meek once in a while, I still listen to them more than I listen to the rest. So you have to want to change, and you have to understand that most of the work you're going to do is going to be done alone. Water break. Delicious. Thank you. That's going to be fun to do on YouTube, because then you'll see that I'm drinking water. And maybe I won't drink it so fast because you'll understand why there's that pause instead of me having to say afterwards. Although I guess I could say it before. Either way, water. Number 3, know that you are moving forward even when you think you are heading backwards. And this one actually is an interesting one that I came up with because I'm sitting in traffic the other day, and one of the car on my left, starts going forward. The car on my right is rolling backward. I'm assuming it was a stick shift. And you know how you're on a hill and it's like you let out of the clutch. Before the car starts going forward, it starts going backwards. Well, I'm standing still. But on the left-hand side, my peripheral vision feels like I'm moving forward. On the right-hand side, my peripheral vision makes it feel like I'm going backwards. But I'm not moving at all. And so when I came up with this, I was like, well, this is really interesting because I'm actually standing still. The car next to me is going forward. The car next to me on my right is going backwards. And it's actually causing me to feel a little bit like a vertigo thing happening. And I realized that the movement of others is not a very good indicator of my actual movement. And we can get caught up in seeing other people move faster than us, get ahead of us, or we can feel better about ourselves when we perceive that we're ahead of somebody else. Oh, let's say 3 people got sober on the same day, and one person's on step 7 while the other one's on step 4, and then I'm over here on step, what would be the math on that? Let's just say 6. Well, I think, wow, that person's already on step 7. They're doing their sobriety better than me. But I'm doing my sobriety way better than this person over here on step 4, which isn't necessarily true or not true. It is completely subjective, and it is absolutely no objectivity whatsoever. So when you think that you are somehow moving faster than others and that puts you ahead of them in life, that is not a very good indicator of your change or your growth or your success. Is monitoring yourself based off of where other people are around you. Because we have no idea what resources, what amount of abilities or skills or lived experiences somebody else has when we're watching what they're doing. We don't know if they're working really hard. We don't know if they were given a leg up because of bloodlines or heritage or genetics or whatever. We don't really know. But what we do know is the amount of effort we're putting in. And so I judge whether I feel like I'm moving forward based on how I feel. And again, going back to number 2, where most of the work will be done in the shadows with no one cheering me on, I have to be really mindful if the voices in my head are feeding me a bunch of shit, trying to make me feel bad about myself, or if they're trying to encourage me to do better because they know that there's something more, better, deeper inside. And we've talked about this before. That it's like, if I want something more for my life, is that me admitting that who I am right now isn't good enough? Because I don't want to think that I'm not good enough the way that I am, but I do want to feel content with who I am, but also feeling like there's something more, like I can still live up to a further potential. Not the potential that my parents or grandparents or teachers and preachers and friends and social media and whatever other, I don't know, the fact that I'm a Gemini in the year of the dragon. Like, I'm not trying to live up to all that. I'm trying to live up to my standards. And my standards were admittedly not very high whenever I was extremely intoxicated in my 20s. Get a college degree. That was pretty much, if you can make it out of your 20s with a college degree, dude, congratulations. You didn't burn your life down. Very low bar from me, I suppose. For some of you, that may sound like a really high bar. For others of you, you may have been like, dude, I got my college degree at 20. I was a doctorate and a PhD, and I solved world hunger by 23. Like, pull your head out of your ass. And that could have been the way your life went. We all have our own lived experiences here. But for me, I realized that who I wasn't all that bad of a person when I look back. I wasn't, doing horrendous things to the world around me, but I wasn't the version of me that I always thought I would be when I was a kid. Or I wasn't the version of me that I somehow took on whenever I thought really highly of myself. Or I wasn't the version of me that maybe I saw somebody else living in a movie or a TV show and thought, you know what, that would be a pretty cool life to be able to experience. what would I have to do to experience that life? So know that whether somebody seemingly is ahead of you or behind you, that doesn't really mean anything. And if your ego needs to be fed in that manner, where it's got to feel like it's ahead of other people, you got to be mindful of your ego, because that's probably what got you into this mess to begin with. The inability to feel, be vulnerable, say I'm sorry, be sober through hard times and feel emotions. There's a whole lot of things that the human mind can do to manipulate itself deeper into an addiction you may have been genetically prone to, or it may have just fallen into your lap and felt like a really good thing to do at that time, and it turned around and bit you in the ass and destroyed your life. Again, infinite amount of variables that could be leading us to listening to 297 today. What's important is that you are mindful of how you are deciding to make your changes. You're doing your work when no one else is watching, and you're not trying to gauge your success or failures or feedback opportunities, as we like to call them here on From Sobriety to Recovery. You're not gauging that stuff on other people, but on yourself with a gentle, loving hand that most of us probably didn't feel as children. Even if we were raised in a really amazing house, it doesn't necessarily mean that in that moment we were always embraced the way that we would have preferred. And mind you, we're being raised by humans who are fallible creatures. So to expect any of our parents to have been able to give us that level of love exactly the way we wanted, exactly at the right time, we see now with the kids today who are coddled, whose parents say things like, I never want them to feel pain. I don't want life to be hard for them. Part of life is that you understand that there's pain and there's sorrow and it's hard. And just because you think your life is better than somebody else's is really a jerky way of looking at things. So that leads us to number 4. Just being in this game is a reward in and of itself. Just being here, just taking these breaths, just being a part of the party that is involved in the sobriety and recovery of life, congratulations. All right. I will give you a ribbon and a trophy just for participating. I know, a lot of people want to shit on that kind of behavior right now, but I will tell you, as somebody who was playing Little League Baseball in 1983 to like 1989, I remember every single year getting a participation trophy. So I don't know when we all decided to start lying to ourselves that we weren't giving that kind of thing out to kids in the 80s, because we were. I remember having a whole bunch of little ribbons. Pretty sure the color was white if you just participated. Congratulations, you showed up with a science project in your hand, and your parents didn't help you with it, obviously, and that's why we're giving you a white ribbon that says participation. I knew one friend, she had so many ribbons, and she won a lot of awards. There was blues and reds and yellows and oranges and all of it, but she had so many ribbons. And there was a very, very fair amount of them that were participation. I will give you participation because you're here. You're engaging in your sobriety and recovery. There are, you know what, we'll make all the participation ribbons blue, because that's used to be what, like the Blue Ribbon Award. Boom, smam, sham-a-lam. Congratulations, we all get blue ribbons. We're doing it. We're rocking it. Just being in the game is a reward in and of itself. And again, this is very heavily Olympic inspired because the Olympics are happening right now. Think about how hard it is for these athletes to attend the Olympics, all the effort they have to go through. Most of them are amateurs. They're not getting NIL money like these college kids are because I've been watching it for 10 days now, and I don't even know most of these people's names. It's Friday, so I think the opening ceremony was last Friday. So I've been watching it for like 6 or 7 days. I don't even know most of their names, and I've been watching them compete. And I love the Olympics. But for so many of them, there's these opening heats for the track and field or for the swimming, when like every country who's there has like a swimmer who wants to be the 100 freestyle gold medalist. So they have all these warm-up heats where basically, if you're really good, you definitely know you're going through. And they all just swim. And you do it to get the slow people gone. But the slow people earned their right through their own national competitions to be a part of their Olympic team. And they get to roll out there and finish 4 seconds behind somebody else. But they've earned that right. Just being an Olympian speaks volumes for the amount of effort, because they are one of, let's just assume that there's a couple thousand athletes who get to attend this. They get to be one of 2,000 or so, random number I picked up, but I'm pretty sure that probably works. Hell, 7 countries might have 2,000 total, and then the next 87 countries could have 600 total. Whatever, Google it. I'm not a freaking Wikipedia over here. But the point being is that they get to be one of a couple thousand people who qualified for the Olympics, who worked their ass off hard enough to just be here, to get to wave, to get to stand up there, to get to swim in that pool, to get to run on that track, to get to throw that discus, to get to ride that horsey, to get to, surf that wave, whatever it might be. They earned it, and you earned it too. Just being in the game is a reward. Whether you're 15 years old seeking sobriety and recovery or 85, you're in the game. You're in the game. You're in the game even when you were actively using. Breathing is all it takes to be in the game of life here. Now, there's going to be different quantifying variables on whether you're doing that desirably or not, but you're here. Get up on your own 2 feet. Realize that a lot of really kick-ass stuff had to happen over the course of millennia for us to even be here on a walking treadmill, wearing a headset microphone, looking at a computer, plugged into an adapter that feeds it over to software that I can edit it, that puts it out there for the world to hear. 100 years ago, we would have all been burned at the stake if we had been walking around with these little supercomputers in our pockets. They'd have been like, witch, devil. Put them in a big dunk tank, and if they float, they're a demon. We must burn at the stake. But if they sink, then they're not a demon. And damn it, we probably shouldn't have killed Martha. She was a really good cook. She was just a little bit angry once in a while. Maybe she wasn't a witch. Maybe she was just a human. Just being in the game is a reward in and of itself. Number 5, once you think you have won, the game has really just started. What's interesting when I think about these Olympians is that, again, the Natalie Coughlin's, the Michael Phelps's, but specifically when I see the gymnasts, especially the females, a lot of them are still in their teenage years. Not Simone Biles. She's like 27 years old, and they call her grandma. She's 21 years younger than me, and they're calling her grandma. But that is very much an age where most people still are not competing in Olympics. And in fact, I think one of ours, in fact, maybe was she Swedish? Was it either Swedish or Australian swimmer? Won a gold medal, and she's like 31, and she's like, I can't even believe I'm still swimming. It's amazing. Katie Ledecky, I think, is 27, so she'll be 31 when she competes in LA, which she's already spoken about wanting to do. And and I literally have this stuff playing in the background, and I've got this mirror I can see it through. Dressel, he's getting ready to go in here. I don't know whether they're going to win or not. I'm going to end up rewinding this and rewatching it while I'm editing the podcast and getting it posted anyways, but I just like to have it on because I feel like, hey, I'm paying attention to you guys, but at the same time, I don't think I want to know if Dressel won. What's his name? Manadou? Florent Manadou? Yeah, maybe that's the guy from France who's been winning a ton of medals that everybody is super hyped on. Oh, yeah, this thing's been coasting. It was playing track and field earlier. All right, back to you guys. Once you think you have won, the game has really just started. Female gymnasts, most of them are teenagers. I think we're caught up now. You think about, for so many of these athletes, they're relatively young, in the prime of their physical conditioning lives. And for many of them, one of the greatest things they'll do their entire life is accomplish before they're age 25. Now, I get that some of these archers and some of these people, that's not necessarily age dependent, although most of the South Koreans do, who are crushing it in archery right now. Most of them do look like they're in their late 20s, early 30s. But the point being is that for the track and field, the swim, the gymnast, a lot of these, it's definitely all those like skateboarding and those kind of events, these are kids. And they're really reaching like a peak moment in their lives. So young. And once they think they've won, and they have, I mean, whatever they win or they did, just by being there and being able to celebrate the fact that they were an Olympian, really the game has just begun. And I go back to Natalie Coughlin, who I think went on and had a designer clothesline, and she may have even opened up a winery in California or something like that. You see Phelps still doing his media circuit. And I mean, again, you don't win 20, 30 some medals and not transcend the sport. But for so many of them, they go on to have this Olympic moment. Their names will be talked about once every 4 years, like we're all supposed to magically remember shit that happened 4 years ago when I don't even remember what I ate 4 days ago. But we'll hear the names and they'll show us the footage and we'll be like, oh my God, I remember seeing that. But for the rest of these people, all of these Olympians, that's it. They've worked their entire lives to achieve this thing. They go off, they compete. Whether they achieve it or not is irrelevant to where I'm going with this. But at some point, they do the closing ceremonies. They all wave goodbye. And the rest of the world just goes back to worshiping football, basketball, baseball, politics, the stock market, the almighty dollar. I don't know, getting pissed off that caterpillars are eating their tomatoes. Like, the world keeps spinning. And for these people who've worked so hard to achieve this one shining moment, the lights go out, the cameras go home, and there they are. Their lives still need to be led. And that's the way it works for us too, but perhaps without all the pomp and circumstance that comes with these Olympians getting to be household names for a couple weeks. We might think that we have won something by getting sober. We might think that we have won something by getting the promotion. We might think we've won something by having $20,000 in our savings account or paying $30,000 off in debt or getting married or having a baby or whatever thing we have been thinking about for so long and working ourselves toward. But as anybody who's a parent will know, as soon as that baby starts crying the first time, you may have wanted it forever, but now you've got forever. And you may have wanted that promotion. You may have wanted that money. You may have wanted that debt paid off. You may have begged the universe for sobriety and recovery. And then it comes, and now the real game begins. I came up with something one day where it was like, what's really interesting to me is how often people will finally get something that they've prayed for so long and then curse that very thing that they got. We will be wanting something so badly and not even realize that once we achieve it, the real work begins, that then all of a sudden we've gotten the promotion, we've moved into the new house, we've gotten the new car, we've achieved this thing in our lives, but now there's more insurance is owed. Now when something breaks down on the new car, we want to get it fixed because the car cost us a lot and we don't want it to fall into a state of disrepair. We get the new house, and now every little creak and groan or, slight sign of mold in the bathroom causes us to go willy-nilly and freak out and start watching YouTube and going to Home Depot and fixing shit. We will beg the universe for something, and then when we get it, that's just when the game really begins. So understand that once you achieve sobriety, once you get the promotion, once you get that hand in marriage, once you get whatever it is that you've always wanted, you get to celebrate it. Pat yourself on the back. Congratulations. It took you a lot of work to get there. But I would argue that it takes even more work to keep that thing that you've worked so hard to get than it took to actually get it. It takes a lot of work to be a good parent. It takes a lot of work to keep up a good house. It takes a lot of work to continuously earn that paycheck that you work so hard to deserve through your earning of it. It takes a lot of hard work. Do hard things. Be the kind of person who refuses to be the first one to reject yourself. Once you think you have won, the game has really just begun. Number 6, accept yourself. Change the behavior. Lately, I've gotten a little upset. I'm a little fried, little brain dead. Brain dead's the wrong word. I'm a little burnout. Burned out's the wrong word. I'm running low on bandwidth. And so much so that I have been saying that I've been running low on bandwidth. And I said 2 things that were not running low on bandwidth before I actually said the thing that I meant to say, which is I'm running low on bandwidth. I pick and choose where to spend my bandwidth, and unfortunately in that 30 seconds, I was not choosing very wisely. So accept yourself and change the behavior. If you yell at somebody, understand that you may not want to be yelling at them in the future. It really sucks that you just yelled at them. Accept the fact that in the moment that was your best recourse of action. Now seek to change the behavior. Now, go back, review why it is you acted like that. Think about how you would like to behave in the future. And the next time something similar comes about, catch yourself, change the behavior. right? We can all get in arguments with our loved ones. We can get mad at our children. We can get upset with somebody at work. Hell, somebody might cut us off in traffic, and our first inclination is to lay on the horn and chase them down the street until they get somewhere where we can pull up next to them, jump out of our car, and start punching into their windshield. Well, that's fucking stupid. Don't do that. Because you took what could have been a 5-second interaction with somebody and turned it into an altercation. And altercations, we're not 11 years old anymore in the 1980s where you could punch somebody on the playground, they could punch you back. Everybody went to the principal's office. We were told not to do it anymore. No, now like state attorneys get involved in stuff like that. So incidents, 5 seconds of an interaction can be a lifetime of shame and guilt over that altercation. So accept yourself, change the behavior. If you yell when you prefer to be calm, then accept that that's what you did, change the behavior. If you were hoarding your food when you prefer to be abundant with your resources, accept yourself, change the behavior. Create a life where that behavior you have adapted yourself to no longer works for you, feels incongruent, doesn't feel like something that you can possibly tolerate from yourself anymore. Accept the fact that you did all those drugs, that you drank all that booze, that you cheated or slept or screwed or whatever the hell you did with other people. Like, man, it is what it is. I can ruminate. I can get pissed off. I can wonder what my life would have been had I not decided to waste it away at Ball State University and instead go off and become a sports broadcaster. Bob Costas is retired now. He used to do the Olympics. You know who could be doing the Olympics right now? Me. You know who's not doing the Olympics right now? Me. Why? Well, I could say it's because I got blacked out drunk during my 20s and 30s. But I don't really know if that's the only reason. Maybe I wouldn't have been any good. Maybe I'd have gotten really pissed off one day on camera and gone into a drunken tirade and just started using a ton of profanity towards people who didn't really deserve nor earn my abject ridicule. Could have gone that way too. Drink break. What's important for us to just realize is that accept yourself, change the behavior. If you want to change it, you'll find a way to change it. But you have to want to change it. Going back to number one, accept yourself, change the behavior. It cannot always be easy to forgive yourself, especially if you're one of those persons who's really into that self-flagellation, which I'm pretty sure flagellation is like some sort of ancient religious custom where you would take like this sort of like these leather straps that may or may not have something metal at the tips of them, and then you'd whip it over your shoulder and it would go into your back. I'm pretty sure that's where I got flagellating, which does sort of sound a little pervy when I say it in that way, but pretty sure flagellation is when you take this leather apparatus with these little metal things at the end of it and whip your back. So if anybody out there knows what I'm talking about, feel free to send me an email to fromsobrietytorecovery@gmail.com, or you can go over to jessemogul.com/askme, and you can fill out one of the forms and be like, yep, dude, that's what it's called. I know I could Google this, but screw that. I want you to tell me if you know what I'm talking about. Accept yourself, change the behavior. Drop mic. Number 7, to finish up 297, because I started this thing 49 minutes ago and thought it would take me 30 minutes. I don't know why I think things like this will only take me 30 minutes. I think I might need to reel it in on YouTube. I don't know if anybody's going to want to watch me sit there and yammer on. Although I will say this, I have been quite animated in this episode. Yes, I have been. But a bummer to all this really will be the fact that I can't walk on my treadmill with my shirt off in the dark. I guess that might have to change. I don't know. Maybe we can figure out a way to make the camera so it only does my head. But there's this fan behind me that looks like a really fast swirling halo on the cameras when I shoot this. So I don't know if that'll work either. We'll figure it out. Number 7. Number 7 of 297. You are worthy of the air you breathe. I gave this one 7 little things, those 7 little pieces of knowledge. Let's go ahead and lay them out, and then let's wrap this up. You are worthy of the air you breathe. You are worthy of the air you breathe. If no one's told you today that you are a divine creature, that you are loved, that just being here, taking these breaths is amazing, you're in the game, and that's the reward in and of itself. And whether you feel like you're moving forward or you think you're always moving backwards, whatever you might subjectively perceive about yourself, realize that we're not always the best indicators of our movement. Neither is watching somebody else's movement. So it's really important that you understand that you've made the decision to change. It's not going to be one easy. It's going to be fraught with peril. It's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and you're going to feel like you're riding a tsunami one day and getting engulfed by it the next. Right? But you've gotten into the game. I want you to start accepting yourself, and I want you to start changing behaviors that are no longer congruent with who you desire to be. You are worthy of the air you breathe. 7.1. And so is everyone else. All right, I'm a little bit tired of everybody being up everybody else's ass about every little thing that everybody says. We live in a world where 8 billion people, and yes, if you've been paying attention, in about 75 years, we'll be lucky if there's like 6 billion people on the planet. We are having a population crash. And whether that's good or bad is irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is there's a whole lot of freaking of us on this planet. And we're all gobbling up resources, and there's some people out there who are nefariously doing so. Almost like they want to see this beautiful planet of ours turn into a dry, desolate rock. But we're worthy of the air we breathe, and so is everyone else. And getting pissed off at somebody for not using the right word or using a derogatory statement that they didn't even know was derogatory, or saying something that we perceive as stigmatizing or damaging or as hurtful. Some people don't know the things you know. Somebody today was talking about something medical, and they mentioned it, and I was like, I've never heard of that. And they're like, wow, you've never heard of that? I'm surprised. Well, there's a bazillion infinite things that I could have learned today and over every course of every day. That's awesome. And I mean, mind you, he didn't say it derogatorily. He was more than happy to explain it to me, but he was somebody who had spent so many years studying this one thing that he was quite surprised that I had never even heard of it. And I think it was called the Gerson technique or something. It's basically about eating like a really holistic, healthy way and how it can rid people of cancer and basically the most horrible terminal illnesses possible. But it's not legal in the United States, so people have to leave the United States to achieve this kind of medical remedy for their ailments. But it can certainly help alleviate cancer, not permanently, but if done for over the course of a long period of time, it can prolong someone's life rather well. And this person had a very, very good reason for knowing everything they knew about it. And I was really happy that they shared that story with me. And at the same time, they're not the first ones who are going to introduce something to me that I've never heard of before. And I'm sure for you all, you have been introduced from me many different things that you're like, what the hell? I've never even heard of that. I taught somebody the other day spiral dynamics. I don't ever say anything like, really? You've never heard of that? Because I realize in a world of infinite content, infinitely content, that there is no possible way that every single person is going to heard of NLP or spiral dynamics or the Gerson technique or any of the other stuff. And again, I want to make sure that this person happens to be listening to the show. I'm more than happy that they shared it with me. And again, didn't say, you never heard of that? I'm surprised, in a derogatory way. But again, when people live their life in a certain world where they're so familiar with something, it becomes, from their point of view, something that the whole world knows. Now let's take that and let's extrapolate it out to other areas of life. If somebody else lives their life in the LGBTQ community, or somebody else lives their life in the heroin community, or somebody else lives their life in a African American or Asian American or Caucasian American community, or they live on a farm, or they live in the inner city, or they live next to a swimming pool and the other people live next to a mountain, then their confirmation bias, their habits have been built up around their environment and their culture. They're going to be very much living in a world where they just assume that everybody knows that if you're raised in the inner city, you spend a lot of time at the blacktop shooting hoops, versus somebody else who lives in the country is like, no, you don't. You spend a lot of time in a cornfield getting drunk, pushing cows over. But somebody who's never been into a cornfield in the middle of the night with beer in their hand and a sleeping cow does not know that it's hilarious to go and try to tip over a cow. Now, I am not saying you should do that in case you go do that and you hurt yourself or the cow and you go tell PETA to sue me on your behalf. I didn't say go do these things. I just said there are some people in society who do find that to be an enjoyable hobby. Just like there are other people who find enjoyable hobbies that they regularly do that we've never even heard of. Everyone is worthy of the air they breathe, and so is everyone else. And stop getting, like, as a society, can we all just agree that not everybody's always going to agree with us? And just by listening to somebody else's opinion or what they have to say, it does not mean we condone it. Somebody could be sitting in a meeting telling you a story about how they think it's all their parents' fault that they got into drugs, that they were completely within their own inalienable rights to rob their parents blind, sell all their shit, and spend it on drugs. And you might be looking at them like, what the frickin' hell are you talking about? Personal responsibility, man. Don't you listen to Jesse's podcast, From Sobriety to Recovery? We don't blame, complain, or make excuses. Pull your head out of your tukish because you're stinking like some shiznit right now. You like that? I just came out of that out of nowhere. I think that would have looked really cool on YouTube. You're worthy of your air. So's everyone else. And here's another one. Number 2, your space begins at the end of your nose and ends as far as you can reach. You contain your bubble. Don't be pressing up into other people's bubbles. And if you're doing things within your bubble that could negatively impact other people's bubbles, you might want to ask yourself, is this really what I should be doing right now? If you've got a really heavy bowling ball and you think it'd be super funny to throw it through a crowd, you are incorrect, because that bowling ball could hurt somebody. You want to be mindful that your space is your space. You don't want somebody else invading it, bringing in all their bull ass into your life, nor should your bull ass be getting into other people's lives, right? Your space begins at the end of your nose and it ends as far as you can reach. It's your little bubble. You're going to have people in your life that are okay with the way that you act and behave and the things that you do and the way that they sort of affect their energy. But for the most part, people want to be left the hell alone. They want to be able to exist in their space because, trust me, the world is going to ebb and flow enough to screw us up, to knock us off balance, to make us shake to the core of our bones, than to have somebody going out and trying to nefariously screw with us on top of that. Your space begins at the end of your nose and ends as far as you can reach. If you're doing things in your house, you're doing things around people that is negatively impacting them and they ask you consistently to stop, then you should ask yourself, why is it you keep pushing back? Authority figures upset you. You were yelled at by your parents. You don't want to be somebody's little bitch. You think that you should have control of the world. The whole world somehow revolves around you. Unfortunately, and probably fortunately, it does not. Just like the sun and the rest of the planets do not revolve around the earth, which was a misguided conception that was brought about many years ago, humans are not the center of the universe. You are not the center of the universe. You are merely a piece of sand, a grain of it, if you will, of bazillions of them scattered throughout the universe. It's almost like when people say that aliens probably don't exist. I'm like... That is only the egotistical nature of the human species to think that somehow we are so magnanimous that we're the only thinking being on the planet. Not the planet. Although, yeah, I bet you aliens are already here, so I'll stick to that. There's other species on the planet that are probably out thinking us. How do you think cell phones came about so fast? I know. I could have lost some of y'all there, so I'll reel it in. The point being is that humans are not the only thinking creature on the entire universal spectrum. That just seems ludicrous. Like, seriously. Have you seen a platypus? Where life can find a way, it finds a way. There are organisms living out of volcanic flumes at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. I'm feeling pretty confident that somewhere out there, something else went from amoeba to thinking creature over the course of a few million years. You are not the center of the universe. Humans are not the center of the universe. We are just a cog of the universe. Embrace your piece of the pie and make the most of it. Number 3, no one is responsible for your change. You have to want to change. No one's responsible for your change. Oh, I'm this way because my mom got sick, because my stepdad only loved me with receipts, because he yelled at me, he spanked me when I got bad grades. We moved away from my family when I was 4. Mom got Crohn's at 8. We moved around every year, so I never had any friends in a long period of time. I, wasn't raised in a stable household like my brother was. My sister and I didn't get along really well when we were kids and didn't know how to communicate. We're raised by emotionally unintelligent parents. It happens. Life happens. No one's responsible for my change. Number 7.4, your trauma is not your fault, but healing it is. Your trauma is not your fault. Healing it is. Humans are humans. No one's responsible for my change, nor am I going to sit here and give my power up to any of those circumstances I just rattled off. It is what it is, and it sucks that it is that way. My trauma isn't my fault, but healing it is my responsibility. No one is responsible for my change. I am responsible for my change. Everybody else is too freaking busy trying to figure out their own change. I'm supposed to expect other people to just magically make my life the center of their life. Well, then where is there going to be any time for them to take care of their life? They've got things they want to accomplish. They got a life that they want to live. And yes, you can spend your time with certain people, your loved ones, your wife, your kids, your husband, all of those people, your siblings, whomever. But they've got their own hopes and dreams, and you've got yours. So take charge of yours. Have it be self-sustainable and self-maintainable, and have it be something that you get fired up for. Because if you're making changes so somebody else will love you more or be happier with you, yes, they might be right. You might want to stop getting yourself blacked out, wasted all the time, and sleeping on the street. It could absolutely positively be something that would benefit you. But at some point, you might get yourself into a stable living situation. You might get a little bit of coin in your pocket, a little bit of bread saved up in your pantry, a little bit of milk saved up in your fridge. And then that person who was always up your ass about getting yourself sober because they wanted you to have a better life, they're like, all right, cool, you're not on the street anymore. But that doesn't mean the journey's done. That means it's just begun. How much bread can you have in that pantry? How much milk can you put in that refrigerator? How many soda waters can you pre-purchase? Well, can you have a full tank of gas at all times instead of counting pennies, out of cushions in the couch in order to be able to get yourself to work the next day, right? You've got to take responsibility for your actions. And don't be a drain on those around you. 7.5. Take responsibility for your actions and don't be a drain on those around you. There's a difference between taking advantage of somebody and earning their support. People are going to be able to support you only so long. They're going to want you to eventually be able to stand up on your own 2 feet. Right? The community of sobriety and recovery will support you. But after a while, you're expected to turn around and support somebody else back. I remember one time tripping my freaking face off at a festival, and I was gonzos. And I remember finding I was stumbling around, and I clearly wasn't doing very well. And she looked like an angel to me. I'm pretty sure she was an angel. My guardian angel came down and was like, dude, you are fucked up. We need to get you over here to this tent. So my angel takes me into this tent, and there's a lot of people super messed up. But there's also a lot of people who are obviously not as messed up, but we're clearly messed up at some point. And they're supporting one another. And so somebody comes up and they talk to me and we're dancing and they're feeding me water and smoking cigarettes. And they really get me through the next 2 hours. And I finally come down and I become a little bit more conscious. And the person's like, yeah, you're back. Way to go. Congratulations. And I was like, wow, that was intense. I was like, what do I do now? And when I said that, I have a very distinct memory. The angel brings another person into the tent. And I look over, I was like, wow, that person looks like they are really fucked up. They really do need help. And the person's like, yep. And that's what you get to do next. And I went over and I danced and I talked and I fed this person cigarettes and I helped get them come down. And what I took from that was, here was a tent full of people who were coming in there super messed up. And when they were able to come down and have their wits about them, other people coming in then got their support. And I remember that person who helped me was like, all right, I'm going to go back out there and enjoy the festival. And for the next hour or two, I helped this person come down. And when they came out of it, somebody else was waiting for them to help them. And for the person I helped come down off the ledge, they were now in charge of going and helping the new person. And I went back out in the festival. And I remember it was such a long festival. I swear to God, it just felt like it went on and on and on for days. I'm pretty sure it was only like a 24-hour rave. And it was somewhere in South Florida, maybe in the swamp. Anyways, inconsequential. Let's stick to the story. So why I'm telling you this is that I wasn't taking advantage. I earned these people's support, and I paid them back for the support they offered me by being the next one up when somebody else walked into that tent needing support. And whenever that person came down off their high and they were finally able to look me in the eye and say, wow, I'm back. Whew, that was a lot. Now what do? And the next person walked into the tent and I go, that person right there, that was you 2 hours ago. Now it's your turn. And we just traded off like that. And it was magical and it was amazing. So understand there's a difference between taking advantage and earning support. And if you keep taking from people and you don't ever pay it forward, then you're taking advantage and you're not earning support. So take responsibility for your actions. Don't be a drain upon those around you. Realize that everybody has their own challenges to recovering their own resources, and you need to be in charge of making sure you've got your resources on lockdown. And then once you get enough of those, you can allow your abundance to start pouring over and helping others. But you're going to find animosity and resentment build up if people keep taking from you and they don't pay it forward, whether it's back to you or whether it's to somebody who needs help the next time. Be the person who knows how to accumulate so much that abundance is this benevolent act that you can do, not expecting anything from it. 7.6, you may have to mend bridges before someone will let you back into their life. I mean, goodness gracious, it can take a second for an interaction to turn into an altercation. And it can take a second for you to torch what was once a beautiful relationship. And now you might have to spend hours, days, months, years mending that relationship. My buddy TC, old fraternity brother, once said to me, he's like, that's the thing about life, man. It can take 10 seconds of inappropriate actions and a lifetime for you to make up for. And we were talking about this back in my drinking days whenever he would ask me about my drink and drive. And he's like, I don't want you doing it. I can't tell you. He's like, I can tell you to stop, but I can't make you stop. And he's like, I'm just telling you right now, Jesse, it could take 10 seconds of you taking your eye off the road to do something that takes you the rest of your life to make amends for. And that stuck with me. So just understand that you may have to mend a lot of bridges, and you can't just expect something like a bridge to be fixed overnight. It actually takes humans like years to build bridges. So don't expect that just because you say you're sorry a couple times, that all of a sudden people are going to forgive you. It might take months, if not years, of consistent actions to prove to them that you've actually gotten yourself right with your world. Understand that you lost their trust and respect along the way because you did something. And just because you do something right for a few weeks doesn't mean that they're going to forgive everything that you seemingly did against them for so long. It's going to take a long time. And if it takes longer than you'd prefer it to take, then you're going to need to make that decision on whether you want to keep being around that person, trying to make up for your past indiscretions, when it might be better off to start fresh with somebody else. Again, it's subjective to your perspective and what you're willing to put yourself through. But nobody owes you their forgiveness. They might forgive you because it's healthier for them to forgive you than holding grudge against you, but they don't have to. But it is up to you to decide how long you want to keep pushing that forward. And again, understanding that they get to make their decisions just like you made yours in the past that have clearly influenced their decisions about you in the present. 7.7. Persistence and consistency are the determining factors between those who earn their dreams and those who regret not having attained and achieved them. Persistence and consistency are the determining factors between those who earn their dreams and those who regret not having attained and achieved them. One more time, persistence and consistency, like these Olympians, is the determining factor between those who earn, not deserve, but earn their dreams, and those who have to live with the regret of not having attained and achieved them. Going back to mending bridges, persistency and consistency. Going back to being responsible for your actions and don't being a drain on others. Persistency and consistency. Taking responsibility for your own healing, even though the trauma is not your fault. Persistence and consistency. No one's responsible for your change. Your space is literally like that 2-foot circumference bubble around you. Everyone, including you, is worthy of the air we breathe. Treating people with love and kindness and empathy. That's something that we want to be persistent and consistent with. Accept yourself and change the behavior. Some days you're not going to be consistent with the way you behave. You might be tired, cranky, hungry, angry, whatever, hangry, mangry. You might be mangy. I don't know. Mangy and angry and hangry. Everybody's going crazy with anger and manger. And I don't, why Snoop's on the TV. I tried to pull some Snoop Doggy Dogg. The D-O-double-G has got me on that one. I digress. Consistency and persistency. Accept yourself, change the behavior. Understand that once you think you have won, the game has really just begun. Just being in the game itself is a reward, but there's so much more ahead of you. The other people's movement backwards or forwards is not a good indicator of your growth, where you're going with your life. That most of the work that you're going to do that's going to be super powerful and super meaningful is going to be the acceptance of who you were, the embracing and the presentness of who you are today, with that desire to seek more from yourself tomorrow. You have to want to change, and you have to maintain that persistency and that consistency each and every day. And I can promise you, when I say each and every day, I do not mean that you're actually going to be busting your ass each and every day. I don't mean that it's not going to be days you want to just lay in bed in the dark listening to freaking sad songs. Trust me, I have had some of these moments myself this year. Life can be a lot sometimes. But it's knowing that tomorrow morning we're going to wake up and we could feel a little bit better. We could feel a little bit worse. Who knows? But today, I at least know today is a non-drinking day. I at least know tomorrow that I wake up and I get to enjoy the best day of my life because I'm sober. I'm not hungover. That at the bare minimum, I always get to hang my hat on that. And yes, there's a point in time in life where just being sober is not enough. Now it's time to go out there and achieve your dreams and grab a hold and fucking launch yourself towards that star. And I feel so good to be able to look at myself in the mirror and know the trials and tribulations that I have gone through have been worth it, if for nothing else to say something positive to you that could influence a change in something you do, that can actually become a part of who you are, that spreads to other people near and far. Now I'm still trying to rhyme. Damn you, Snoop Doggy Dogg, with your D-O-double-G. Everything you want to achieve in life can be achievable, but it's going to be on the other side of hard work, probably a lot of sweat, maybe even some tears, hopefully not too much blood, but there's going to be effort, and you're going to have to do the hard things. What you choose to do with the knowledge I share with you on this show, the conversations you have in your meetings, the vulnerable moments you have with your loved ones, those moments of feeling like the world's beating you down, the times whenever you feel like you're standing on the mountain. It's like that old saying, money doesn't destroy character, it reveals it. Success doesn't destroy character, it reveals it. Failure doesn't destroy character, it reveals it. You get to choose who you want to be, first and foremost for yourself. Then the rest of the world gets to embrace it, or like, most of us probably felt whenever we were in our worst days of addiction, maybe the world wants to reject you sometimes. But if there's one voice in your head that says you are worthy and you are loved, I would continue to ask you, to exalt you toward listening to that voice over all the others whose voices might sound like yours, but are probably somebody others. All right, my friends, if you think you like more of this, jessemogul.com/ask me. I'm running an NLP class, starts in 2 months. I'm going to be running a whole episode on that, probably at either $298 or $299 when I first start testing out the equipment. Happy $297. Again, if you'd like to be coached by me, if you'd like to learn NLP by me, if you'd like to have me come speak at your company, if you'd like to have me, I don't know, there's a whole lot of things I do. I can come speak to your company over Zoom. I can be flown out to wherever you are. I'll come speak at your meeting. If you're near, I'm not getting on an airplane, flying across the country for free to go speak at your meeting, but certainly if we can make something happen, I will do it. jessemogul.com/ask me. Click on NLP, click on coaching. talk to me. We'll make something happen. As always, my friends, hour and 15 minutes. I've been on this treadmill for an hour and 15 minutes. Let's see how many steps I did. So when I open it up, it'll tell me my old steps. Then I get about a split second to see what my new steps are. So I got to be really focused here. So 6488, 13296. 6488, 13296. So about 7,000 steps. And it's at 1.8 miles an hour. I keep it pretty low because I don't want you guys to hear me like slamming my feet down onto a treadmill while we're doing this. As is, once in a while, there's a clicking sound that I think is the cord going up against the microphone. So that could certainly get remedied once I can no longer walk on the treadmill. I swear I'm going to figure out a way to walk on the treadmill. I might have to start shooting these during the daytime when the sun is coming through the window. Okay, jessemogul.com/ask me if you'd like to know more information on being a client, being in the tribe, or learning an LP for recovery, whatever you'd like to know, jessemogul.com/ask me, fill out the form. Hey, while you're there, peruse the website, because in like 2 months, I'm going to change the whole damn thing, and it's not going to look anything like it does right now. So you should take an opportunity to see what it looks like now before I go messing with the whole thing and change it up. So, just an idea. You do what you're going to do. As always, inclusivity over exclusivity, the power of positive energy, release and flow. Every day is the best day of our lives when we wake up sober. I'll say it once, I'll say it again, and I'll believe it till the day I take my last breath. Shout out to Sunshine, shout out to Robert. While we're at it, shout out Abigail and Mom. Love y'all too. Every single day is the best day of our lives when we wake up sober. Glow on, my friends. See you for 298 next week. Bye-bye.